who led you up, and the books, and go down to earth, and tell your sons all that I have told you, and all that you have seen, from the lower heaven up to my throne, and all the troops. For I created all forces, and there is none that resists me, or that does not subject himself to me, for all subject themselves to my monarchy, and labour for my sole rule. Give them the books of the handwriting, that they will read, and they will know me for my creator of all things, and will understand how there is no other God but me. And let them distribute the books of your handwriting, children to children, generation to generation, nations to nations. And I will give you Enoch, my intercessor, and Archistrage Michael, for the handwritings of your fathers, Adam, Seth, Enos, Canaan, Mahalalel, and Jared your father. They have rejected my commandments, and it's my yoke. Worthless seed has come up, not fearing God, and they would not bow down to me, but have begun to bow down to vain gods, and denied my unity, and have larded the whole earth with untruths, offences, abominable lecheries, namely one with another, and all manner of unclean wickedness, which are disgusting to relate. And therefore I will bring down a deluge upon the earth, and will destroy all men, and the whole earth will crumble together into great darkness. Behold, from their seed shall arise another generation, much afterwards, but to them many will be insatiate. He who raises that generation shall reveal to them books of your handwriting, of your fathers, to them, to whom he must point out the guardianship of the world, to the faithful men and workers of my pleasure, who do not acknowledge my name in vain. And they shall tell another generation, and those, having read, shall be glorified thereafter, more than the first. Now Enoch, I give you the term of 30 days to spend in your house, and tell your sons and your household, that all may hear from my face what is told by them by you, that they may read and understand how there is no other God but me, and that they may always keep my commandments, and begin to read and take the books of your handwriting. And after 30 days I shall send my angel for you, and he will take you from the earth, and from your sons to me. And the Lord called me one of the elder angels, terrible and menacing, and placed him by me, in appearance white as snow, and hands like ice, having the appearance of great frost. And he froze my face, and because I could not endure the terror of the Lord, just as it is not possible to endure a stove's fire in the sun's heat and the frost of the air. The Lord said to me, Enoch, if your face be not frozen here, no man will be able to behold your face. And the Lord said to those men who first led me up, Let Enoch go down to the earth with you, and await him till the determined day. And they placed me by night on my bed, and Methuselah, expecting my coming, keeping watch by day and by night at my bed, was filled with awe when he heard my coming. And I told him, Let all my household come together, that I tell them everything. O my children, my beloved ones, hear the admonition of your father, as much as according to the Lord's will. I have been let come to you today, and announce to you, not from my lips, but from the Lord's lips, all that is and was, and all that is now, and all that will be till judgment day. For the Lord has let me come to you. You hear therefore the words of my lips, of a man made big for you. But I am one who has seen the Lord's face, like iron made from glow. From fire it sends forth sparks and burns. You look now on my eyes of a man. You look now upon my eyes of a man big with meaning for you. But I have seen the Lord's eyes, shining with the sun's rays, and filling the eyes of man with awe. You see now, my children, the right hand of a man that helps you, but I have seen the Lord's right hand, filling the heaven as he helped me. You see the compass of my work like your own, but I have seen the Lord's limitless and perfect compass, which has no end. You hear the words of my lips, as I heard the words of the Lord, like great thunder incessantly with hurling of clouds. And now, my children, hear the discourses of the Father of the earth, how fearful and awful it is to come before the face of the ruler of the earth, how much more terrible and awful it is to come before the face of the ruler of heaven, the controller of quick and dead, and of the heavenly troops. Who can endure that endless pain? And now, my children, I know all things, for this from the Lord's lips, and from his eyes have seen from beginning to end. I know all things, I have written all things into books, the heavens and their end, and the plenitude, and the armies and their marchings. I have measured and described the stars in great and countless multitude of them. What man has seen their revolutions and their entrances? For not even the angels see their number. Well, I have written all their names. And I have measured the sun's circle, and measured its rays, counted the hours, and wrote down too all things that go over the earth. I have written the things that are nourished, and all seeds sown and unsown, which the earth produces and plants, and every grass and every flower, and their sweet smells, and their names, and the dwelling places of the clouds, and their composition, and their wings, and how they bear rain and raindrops. And I investigated all things, and I wrote to the road of thunder and of the lightning, and they showed me the keys and their guardians, their rise and their way to go, and it is let out in measure by a chain, lest by a heavy chain and violence it would hurl down angry clouds and destroy all things on earth. I wrote the treasure houses of the snow, and the storehouses of the cold, and the frosty airs, and I observed their seasons. Keyholder, he fills the clouds with them, he does not exhaust the treasure houses. And I wrote the resting places of the winds, and observed and saw how their keyholder bears weighing scales and measures. First they put them in one weighing scale, and then in the other, weighs it and lets it out according to measure cunningly over the whole earth, lest by heavy breathing they make the earth rock. And I measure out the whole earth, its mountains, and all hills, fields, trees, stones, rivers, and all existing things I wrote down. The height from the earth to the seventh heaven, the downwards to the very lowest hell, and the judgment place, and the very great and open weeping hell. And I saw how the prisoners are in pain, expecting the limitless judgment. And I wrote down all things being judged by the judge, and all their judgment and sentences, and all their works. And I saw all forefathers from all time with Adam and Eve, and I sighed and broke into tears, and I said to the ruin of their dishonour, Woe is me for my infirmity, and for that of my forefathers, and thought in my heart and said, Blessed is the man who has not been born, and shall not sin before the Lord's face, that he come not to this place, nor bring the yoke of this place. And I saw the keyholders and guardians of the gates of hell standing like great serpents, and their faces like extinguishing lamps, and their eyes of fire, and their sharp teeth. And I saw the Lord's works, and how they are right, while the works of man are some good and others bad, and in their works are known those who lie evilly. I, my children, measured and wrote every work and every measure and every righteous judgment. As 1 year is more honourable than another, so is one man more honourable than another. Some for great possessions, some for wisdom of heart, some for particular intellect, some for cunning, one for silence of lip, another for cleanliness, one for strength, another for comeliness, one for youth, another for sharp wit, one for shape of body, another for sensibility. Let it be heard everywhere, but there is none better than he who fears God. He shall be more glorious in the time to come. The Lord with his hands, having created man in the likeness of his own face, the Lord made him small and great. Whoever reviles the Lord's face and abhors the Lord's face has despised the Lord's face, and he who vents anger on any man without injury, the Lord's great anger will cut him down. He who spits on the face of a man reproachfully will be cut down at the Lord's great judgment. Blessed is the man who does not direct his heart with malice against any man, and helps the injured and condemned, and raises the broken down, and shall do charity to the needy. Because on the day of the great judgment every weight, every measure, and every make weight will be as in the market, that is to say, they are hung on scales and stand in the market, and every one shall learn of his own measure, and according to his measure shall he take his reward. Whoever hastens to make offerings before the Lord's face, the Lord for this part will hasten that offering by granting of his work. But whoever increases his lamp before the Lord's face, and make not true judgment, the Lord will not increase his treasure in the realm of the highest. When the Lord demands bread or candles, or the flesh of beasts, or any other sacrifice, then that is nothing, but God demands pure hearts, and with all that only tests the heart of man. Hear, my people, and take the words of my lips. If anyone bring any gifts of an earthly ruler, and have disloyal thoughts in his heart, And the ruler knows this. Will he not be angry with him? And will he not refuse his gifts, and not give him over to judgment? Or if one man make himself appear good to another by deceit of tongue, but have evil in his heart, then will he not the other understand the treachery of his heart, and himself be condemned, since the untruth was plain to all? And when the Lord shall send a great light, then there will be judgment for the just and the unjust, and no one shall escape notice. And now, my children, lay thought to your hearts. Make well the words of your Father, which are all come to you from your Lord's lips. Take these books of your Father's handwriting and read them. For the books are many, and in them you will learn all the Lord's works, all that has been from the beginning of creation, and will be till the end of time. And if you will observe my handwriting, you will not sin against the Lord, because there is no other except the Lord, neither in heaven, nor in earth, nor in the very lowest places, nor in the foundation. The Lord has placed the foundations in the unknown, and has spread forth the heavens visible and invisible. He fixed the earth on the waters, and created countless creatures. And who has counted the waters of the foundation of the unfixed, or the dust of the earth, or the sand of the sea, or the drops of the rain, or the morning dew, or the wind's breathings? Who has filled the earth and sea, an indissoluble winter? I cut the stars out of fire, and decorated heaven, and put it in their midst, that the sun go along the 7 heavenly circles, which are anointed of 182 thrones, that it go down on a short day, and again 182, that it go down on a big day, that he has 2 thrones on which he rests, revolving hither and thither above the thrones of the months. From the 17th of the month Tisvan, it goes down in the month of Thetham. From the 17th of Tetham it goes up. Thus it goes close to the earth, and then is glad, and makes it grow its fruits. And when it goes away, then the earth is sad, and the trees and all the fruits have no florescence. And all he has measured with good measurement of hours, and fixed a measure by his wisdom, of the visible and the invisible. From the invisible he made all things visible, himself being invisible. Thus I make known to you, my children, and distribute the books to your children, and into all your generations, and amongst the nations who shall have the sense to fear God. Let them receive them, and may they come to love them more than any food or earthly sweets, and read them and apply themselves to them. And those who understand not the Lord, who fear not God, who accept not but reject, who do not receive the books, a terrible judgment awaits these. Blessed is the man who shall bear their yoke and shall drag them along, for he shall be released on the day of the great judgment. I swear to you, my children, but I swear not by any oath, neither heaven, nor by earth, nor by any other creature which God has created. The Lord saith, there is no oath in me, nor injustice, but truth. If there is no truth in men, let them swear by words, yea, yea, or else nay, nay. And I swear to you, yea, yea, that there has been no man in this mother's womb, but that already before, even to each one there is a place prepared for these reposts of that song, and a measure fixed of how much is intended that man to be tried on this world. Yea, children, deceive not yourselves, for there has been previously prepared a place for every soul of man. I have put every man's work in writing, and none born on earth can remain hidden, nor his works remain concealed. I see all things. Now therefore, my children, in patience and meekness, spend the number of your days, that you inherit endless life. Endure for the sake of the Lord every wound, every injury, every evil word and attack. If ill requitals befall you, return them not either to neighbour nor enemy, because the Lord will return them for you, and be your avenger on the day of the great judgment, and that there be no avenger here among men. Whoever you spend gold and silver of the brother's sake, he will receive ample treasure in the world to come. Injure not the widows nor the orphans, nor strangers, lest God's wrath come upon you. Stretch out your hands to the poor, according to your strength. Hide not your silver in the earth. Help the faithful man in affliction, and affliction will not find you in the time of your trouble. And every grievous and cruel yoke and come upon you, bear it all for the sake of the Lord, and thus you will find in your reward in the day of judgment. It is good to go morning, midday, and evening to the Lord's dwelling, for the glory of your Creator. because every breathing thing glorifies him, and every creature visible and invisible returns him praise. Blessed is the man who opens up his lips in praise of God of Sabbath, and praises the Lord with his heart. Cursed every man who opens his lips for the bringing into contempt and calumny of his neighbour, because he brings God into contempt. Blessed is he who opens his lips, blessing and praising God. Cursed is he before the Lord all the days of his life, who opens his lips to curse and abuse. Blessed is he who blesses the Lord's works. Cursed is he who brings the Lord's creation into contempt. Blessed is he who looks down and raises the fallen. Cursed is he who looks and is eager for the destruction of what is not his. Blessed is he who keeps the foundation of his fathers made firm from the beginning. Cursed is he who perverts the decrees of his forefathers. Blessed is he who imparts peace and love. Cursed is he who disturbs that love of their neighbours. Blessed is he who speaks with a humble tongue and heart to all. Cursed is he who speaks peace with his tongue, while in his heart there is no peace but a sword. For all these things will be laid bare in the weighing scales and in the books, and on the day of great judgment. And now, my children, do not say, Our Father is standing before God, and is praying for our sins, for there is no helper of any man has sinned. You see how I wrote all works of every man before his creation, all that is done amongst all men for all time. None can tell or relate my handwriting, because the Lord see all imaginations of man, how they are vain, and when they lie in their treasure houses of their heart. And now, my children, mark well all the words of your father that I tell you, lest you regret saying, Why did our father not tell us? And at that time, not understanding this, let these books which I have given to you be an inheritance for your peace. Hand them to all who want them, and instruct them, that they may see the Lord's very great and marvellous works. My children, behold, the day of my term at time has approached. For angels who shall go with me are standing before me, and urge me to departure from you, that they are standing here on earth, awaiting what has been told them. For tomorrow I shall go to heaven, to the uppermost Jerusalem, to my eternal inheritance. Therefore I bid you before the Lord's face all his good pleasure. Methuselah, having answered his father Enoch, said, What is agreeable to your eyes, father, that I may make before your face, that you may bless our dwellings and your sons, and that your people may be made glorious through you, and then that which you may depart thus? The Lord and said, Enoch answered to his son Methuselah and said, Hear, child, from the time when the Lord anointed me with the anointment of his glory, there has been no food in me, and my soul remembers not earthly enjoyment, neither do I want anything earthly. My child Methuselah, summon all your brethren and all your household, and the elders of the people, that I may talk to them, and depart as is planned for me. And Methuselah made haste and summoned his brethren, Regem, Renam, Uchan, Cheman, and Gadad, and all the elders of the people before the face of the Father. And he blessed them, and he said to them, Listen to me, my children, today. In those days when the Lord came down on earth for Adam's sake, and visited all his creatures which he created himself, after all these he created Adam, and the Lord called all the beasts of the earth, and all the reptiles of the birds, and soar in the air, and brought them all before the face of our father Adam. And Adam gave names to all things living on earth. And the Lord appointed him ruler over all, and subjected him to all things under his hands, and made them dumb, and made them dull, that they may be commanded of man, and be in subjection and obedience to him. Thus the Lord created every man lord over all his possessions. The Lord will not judge a single soul of beast for man's sake, but it judges the souls of men to their beasts in this world, for men have a special place. And as every soul of man is according to number, similarly beasts will not perish, nor all souls of beasts which the Lord created, till the great judgment, and they will accuse man, if he feed them ill. Whoever defiles the soul of beasts defiles his own soul, for man brings clean animals to make sacrifice for sin, that he may have cure of his soul. And if they bring for sacrifice clean animals and birds, man is cure, he cures his soul. All is given for you for food, bind it by the 4 feet, that it is make good the cure, he cures the soul. But whoever kills beast without wounds, kills his own soul, and defiles his own flesh. And he who does any beast any injury whatsoever, in secret, It is evil practice, and he devours his own soul. And he who works the killing of a man's soul kills his own soul, and kills his own body, and there is no cure for him for all time. He who puts man in any snare shall stick it in himself, and there is no cure for him for all time. He who puts a man in any vessel, his retribution will be not wanting at the great judgment for all time. He who works crookedly or speaks evil against any soul will not make justice for himself for all time. And now, my children, keep your hearts from every injustice, which the Lord hates. Just as a man asks him something for his own soul from God, so let him do every living soul. Because I know all things, and in the great time to come there is much inheritance prepared for men, good for the good, and bad for the bad, without number many. Blessed are those who enter the good houses, for in the bad houses there is no peace, nor return from them. Hear, my children, small and great, when man puts good thought in his heart, brings gifts from his labour before the Lord's face, and his hands made them not. Then the Lord will turn his way and face from his labour in his hand, and that man cannot find the labour of his hands. And if the hands made it, but his heart murmur, and his heart cease to not make him murmur incessantly, he has not any advantage. Blessed is the man who takes in his patience brings gifts with faith before the Lord's face, because he will find forgiveness of sins. But if he take back his words before the time, there is no repentance for him. And if the time pass, and he do not of his own will that is promised, there is no repentance after death. Because every work which man does before the time is all deceit before men, and sin before God. When man clothes the naked and fills the hungry, he will find reward from God. But if his heart murmur, he commits a double evil, ruin of himself that which he gives, and for him there will be no finding of reward on account of that. And if then his own heart is filled with his food, and his own flesh clothed with his own clothing, he commits contempt, and will forfeit all his endurance of poverty, and will not find reward of his good deeds. Every proud and malignant man and hateful to the Lord, and every false speech, clothed in untruth, it will be cut to the blade of the sword of death, and thrown into the fire, and shall burn for all time. And when Enoch had spoken these words to his sons, all people far and near heard of the Lord was calling Enoch. They took counsel together. Let us go and kiss Enoch. 2,000 men came together and came to the place at Akuzan, where Enoch was, and his sons. And the elders of the people, whole assembly, came and bowed down and began to kiss Enoch, and said to him, Our father Enoch, may you be blessed of the Lord, the eternal ruler, and now bless your sons and all the people, that we may be glorified today before your face. For you shalt be glorified before the Lord's face for all time, since the Lord chose you, rather than all men on earth, and designated you writer of all his creation, visible and invisible, and redeemed the sins of man, and helper of your household. And Enoch answered all the people, saying, Hear, my children, before that all creatures were created, the Lord created the visible and invisible things. And as much time as there is and went past, understand that after all that created man in the likeness of his own form, and put into him eyes to see, and ears to hear, and a heart to reflect, and intellect to herewith be deliberate. And the Lord saw all man's works, and created all his creatures, and divided them. From time he fixed the years, and from the years he appointed the months, and from the months he appointed the days, and of the days he appointed 7. And in those he appointed the hours, measured them out exactly, that man might reflect on time, and counted years, months, and hours, their alteration, and beginning and end, and that he might count his own life from beginning to death, and reflection of his sin, and write his work bad and good, because no work is hidden before the Lord, that every man might know his works, and never transgress all his commandments, and keep my handwriting from generation to generation. When all creation, visible and invisible, as the Lord created it, shall end, then every man goes to the great judgment, then all time perish, and all the years, and thenceforth will never neither months or days or hours, they will be adhered together, and will not be counted. There will be one aeon, and all the righteous who shall escape the Lord's great judgment shall be collected in great aeon. For the righteous the great aeon will begin, and they will live eternally. And then too there will be amongst them neither labour, nor sickness, nor humiliation, nor anxiety, nor need, nor brutality, nor height, nor darkness, but great light. And they shall have great indestructible wool, and a paradise bright and incorruptible from all corruptible things shall pass away, and there will be eternal life. And now, my children, keep your souls from all injustice, such as the Lord hates. Walk before his face with terror and trembling, and serve him alone. Bow down to the true God, not to dumb idols, but bow down to his similitude, and bring all just offerings before the Lord's face. The Lord hates what is unjust. For the Lord sees all things when man takes thought in his heart. Then he counsels the intellects, and every thought is always before the Lord, who made firm the earth and put all creatures on it. If you look to heaven, the Lord is there. If you take thought of the seas deep, and all under earth, the Lord is there. For the Lord created all things. Bow not down to things made by man, leaving the Lord of all creation, because no work can remain hidden before the Lord's face. Walk, my children, in long-suffering and meekness, honesty and provocation, in grief, in faith and in truth, in reliance and promises, in illness, in abuse, in wounds, in temptation, in nakedness, in privation, loving one another, till you go out from this age of ills, that you become inheritors of endless life. Blessed are the just who just shall escape the great judgment, for they shall shine forth more than the sun sevenfold. For in this world the seven part is taken from all: light, darkness, food, enjoyment, sorrow, paradise, torture, fire, frost, and other things. He put all down in writing, that you might read and understand. When Enoch had talked to the people, the Lord sent out darkness unto the earth, and there was darkness, and it covered those men standing with Enoch. And they took Enoch up to the highest heaven, there where the Lord is, and he received him and placed him before his face, and the darkness went off from the earth, and light came again. And the people saw and understood not how Enoch had been taken, and glorified God, and found a roll in which was traced the invisible God, and went to their dwelling places. Enoch was born on the 6th day of the month of Tisvan, and he lived 365 years. He was taken up to heaven on the 1st day of the month of Tisvan, and remained in heaven 60 days. He wrote all these signs of all creation which the Lord created, and wrote 366 books, which handed over to the sons, and remained on earth 30 days, and was again taken up to heaven on the 6th day of the month of Tisvan, on the very day and hour he was born. And every man's nature in his life is dark, so are also his conception, birth, and departure from this life. And what hour he was conceived, and the hour he was born, and that hour too he died. Methuselah and his brethren, all the sons of Enoch, made haste and erected an altar at a place called Achuzan, whence and where Enoch had been taken up to heaven. And they took sacrificial oxen, and summoned all people, and sacrificed before the Lord's face. All people, the elders of the people, and the whole assembly came to the feast, and brought gifts to the sons of Enoch. And they made a great feast, rejoicing, and making merry 3 days, praising God, who had given them such a sign through Enoch, who had found favour with them, and that they should hand it to their sons from generation to generation, from age to age. Amen.